Okay, so this is going to be our first example problem for the lesson. So I'm just going to read through it and walk you through this. Make sure that you're writing down notes on a separate sheet of paper, or if you print off the notes, you can write them down as well. I know it's a little bit hard to read on this scanned sheet that I have on here, but hopefully if you downloaded it on your computer, you'll be able to read it a little bit clearer. But number one says, a radio station trying to determine what kind of music to play takes a simple random sample of 50 students at each of the three locations: a local middle school, a high school, and a college. So right there, we're thinking about what type of chi-square test we're dealing with. We have three separate samples of 50s. It's probably going to be homogeneity before you can even read the rest of the problem. But let's still read through it just to make sure. The students are asked to choose which of the three different music genres they most enjoy hearing on the radio. Here are the results. Okay, so we're dealing with a two-way table, so that limits it down to homogeneity and test for independence. And since we have three different samples, it's going to be a test for homogeneity. So that is going to be the type of test that we have. Part A is asking us to put the expected values. I'm going to come back to that in a second because that's usually going to be a part of what we include in part of our significance test. So I'll come back and talk to that when we get to that, our significance test. But the first thing we want to do is we want to write down what type of test it is. Okay, and this, anytime we do a significance test or a confidence interval, you want to write down what type of test it is before you start solving it. That's one of the things that they look for when they're doing the grading on the AP test. So we have a chi-squared test for homogeneity. All right, so here's how we write the null and alternative hypotheses for this, for a homogeneity test. All right, so if it's a homogeneity test, we're going to say there is no difference between the variable that we're measuring and then the different groups that we have. And then you want to talk about it in context. So this means there's no difference in the music genre preference, that's the category that we're measuring, between middle, high school, and college students. And those are the three different samples, subgroups of the population that we are talking about. All right, and then the alternative hypothesis is that there is a difference. So remember, just basic null hypothesis, there's a statement of no difference, and then the alternative is going to be opposite of that. So there is a difference. So there is a difference in music genre preference between middle school, high school, and college students. Okay, so that's what this test is going to be having us do. It's going to be determining whether, given our results that are up here, is there a significant difference between the preferences between the three different subgroups of middle school, high school, and college students. All right. So just like any other significance test, that's the first thing that we need to do, write down our hypotheses. Next, we have our conditions, and they're exactly the same as the chi-square goodness of fit test. So it tells us a random sample, so that one checks off. Our 10% condition is met because obviously there's going to be more than 500 middle school, high school, college students in the country, right? So our 10% condition is met, and then our expected value needs to be greater than 5. So this one is met, but I'm going to go back and show you why in a second. All right, so the good thing about the homogeneity and the independence test is that it's really easy to get the expected values using your calculator. It's a very complicated formula and process. It takes a long time to do it by hand, so we're not even worrying about how to do the expected values by hand. We're going to do this in your calculator. Okay? So what I want you to do now is, after this video, I'm going to end it in a second, you're going to watch a video from YouTube where it talks through how to do everything on your TI-84 calculator. After you watch that video, and this next video that we're going to go through and do is going to be me explaining more of what that calculator video was talking about and how to use that to finish up the rest of your significance test.